ating paggunita, ika-28 taong paggunita. Bilang pagpupugay sa mga martir ng Mendiola Massacre.
You need to hear this if you're someone who believes justice always prevails, because what happened at the gates of the palace will haunt you. In the heart of Manila, Mendiola Bridge stands as a silent witness to hope, struggle, and heartbreak, a symbol of promises broken. On January 22nd, 1987, thousands of farmers gathered here, united by a dream of justice and land reform. They marched peacefully, believing the new democracy would finally hear them. But they were met by armed state forces. The air, once filled with chants, was shattered by gunfire. In moments, hope turned to chaos. 13 farmers fell that day. The tragedy, known as the Mendiola Massacre, left a wound that has never healed. No one was ever held accountable. Each year, mourners gather, holding up the faces of those lost. The massacre haunts the nation's conscience, a reminder of unkept promises. Decades later, the fight for land and dignity continues. The Mendiola Massacre remains a call to remember and to hope. In 1986, hope surged through the Philippines. Millions united in the streets, dreaming of freedom and a better future. The People Power Revolution toppled a dictatorship, and Corazon Aquino became a symbol of democracy. Ordinary citizens believed their voices could finally shape the nation. Aquino promised land reform, a lifeline for millions of farmers trapped in poverty. For them, it was hope for dignity and a future. Yet Aquino herself came from a powerful landowning family. The old elite still held sway, and the divide between rich and poor remained. Farmers watched anxiously as promises of reform faded, diluted by political compromise and resistance. Loopholes in new laws favored landlords, the fields remained unchanged, and rural struggles continued. Optimism faded. A sense of betrayal set in among those who had placed their faith in the revolution. Frustration and anger grew. Protests erupted as farmers demanded the justice they were promised. Broken promises drove thousands to march to the seat of power, refusing to let their dreams for justice be forgotten. In January 1987, a river of farmers flowed toward Manila. Organized by the Kilusang Magbubukid ang Pilipinas, they came from rice fields and sugar plantations, leaving families and work behind. Their numbers swelled to 15,000, united by a simple demand: genuine agrarian reform. They called for free land distribution and an end to landlord loopholes. Their march was peaceful, a pilgrimage for justice. They believed that by reaching Malacanang Palace, they could appeal directly to President Aquino. Rallies and dialogues brought no results. On January 22nd, they gathered, unarmed but determined. The atmosphere was tense, but hope outweighed fear. They sang, chanted, and marched for land, not bullets. They marched not against democracy, but to make its promises real. As the farmers neared Mendiola Bridge, they met a wall of riot police and armed soldiers. The bridge was transformed into a militarized checkpoint. KMP leader Jaime Tadeo tried to negotiate, insisting on their right to proceed peacefully. Police commanders refused. The protesters were not to pass. A tense standoff ensued, the crowd pressing forward. Suddenly, an explosion shattered the silence. Chaos erupted. Objects flew. The police line buckled. State forces opened fire without warning. The sharp crack of rifles echoed as soldiers aimed into the crowd. Protesters collapsed. Hope was extinguished by gunfire. The dream of peaceful dialogue died in a volley of bullets. The bridge became a killing field. The government's response was overwhelming, lethal force. The first shot sent the crowd into panic. Farmers ran, but the mass of people trapped them. State forces kept firing, even at retreating protesters. In 10 minutes, 13 were dead, nearly 100 wounded. Banners fell, stained with blood. Survivors described a nightmare. No escape, only chaos. Some risked their lives to help the wounded. The police advanced, firing as they pushed the crowd back. The message was clear: dissent would be crushed. When the shooting stopped, silence fell over a street littered with bodies and blood. Ambulances struggled to reach the victims. The massacre was over, but the fight for truth and justice had just begun. The Aquino administration faced outrage at home and abroad. President Aquino formed the Citizens Mendiola Commission to investigate. For victims' families, it was a flicker of hope. But the commission's work was marred by lost testimonies and a unified, defiant military narrative. Officials claimed self-defense, blaming agitators among the protesters. No credible evidence supported these claims. No weapons were found. The Commission's final report failed to assign blame, recommending vague charges against unnamed demonstrators and suggesting, but not pursuing, prosecution of some government forces. The result, a fog of ambiguity, a foundation for years of impunity. The victims' families turned to the courts seeking justice. They filed a class-action lawsuit against the government and security officials. The legal battle dragged on, but the case was dismissed on the grounds of state immunity. The courts ruled the state could not be sued without its consent, even for the deaths of its own citizens. The families appealed to the Supreme Court, arguing that immunity should not shield injustice. In 1993, the Supreme Court upheld the dismissal. No one would ever face trial for the massacre. The message the state could kill with impunity for survivors. It was a profound betrayal. Justice was not just denied, it was institutionally buried. Decades later, the wound remains open, a constant reminder of the tragedy that unfolded. Every January 22nd, survivors and families gather at Mendiola Bridge, a place now etched in their collective memory. They light candles, lay flowers, and remember the slain, honoring their sacrifice and keeping their stories alive. Their annual vigil is a living protest, a vow to continue the struggle for justice and recognition. The massacre's legacy is a shadow of impunity over the Philippines, a dark chapter that refuses to close. Violence against farmers and activists continues, justified by red tagging and old prejudices, perpetuating a cycle of fear and oppression. The killings did not end in 1987. New massacres followed, each one a grim reminder of the ongoing struggle. The government passed the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program, but loopholes favored landlords, undermining the very essence of the reform. Genuine reform remains elusive. The fight for land continues in fields and in Congress, a battle fought on multiple fronts. The memory of Mendiola fuels ongoing resistance, inspiring new generations to take up the cause. The struggle for justice and land is far from over, a testament to the enduring spirit of those who fight for what is right. The bridge remains a symbol of both loss and defiance, a place where memories and hopes converge. Mendiola Bridge stands as a silent witness. For many it is sacred ground, a symbol of democracy's failure to protect its people. The massacre sowed distrust between state and citizen. The farmers who marched were the nation's foundation, asking only for justice and dignity. Their plea was met with bullets, and decades of silence deepened the wound. The fight for land and rights continues, led by a new generation inspired by the courage of those who fell. The spirit of the Mendiola marchers endures. And so we are left with a question: what is democracy worth if it cannot deliver justice for the poor?